Welcome to Conversations with Toy, a blogcast tackling life one episode at a time. This is the time to air out life's craziest moments. This space is all about speaking about life's hang-ups and ways in which we can leave better than when we started. Topics are all about ways we can find space to be better in life, love, mental space, and health.
Happy Friday. I hope that you have had the most amazing week because you are deserving of all the things. First of all, thank you for tuning into Conversations with Toy. I am Toy. I'm your podcaster, but I wear a lot of hats. I am a content creator. I am a freelance writer. I am a blogger. I do social media things. I am a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades. However, with all that being said, there are two sets of hats that I love the most, and that is being the wife and mother of three amazing, beautiful children. And I'm grateful for us all coming here. Listen, there is a lot to talk about. We got doctors popping up, and when we're talking about mental health and wellness, there just has to be a clear line. I have always stated and will continue to say, I am not a licensed therapist. I, at this point, do not seek to become a licensed therapist. The one thing I can master is me. And whenever I share my stories, whenever I give suggestions, these are things based upon things that have worked for me. Here's the beautiful part about when I share things about my failures, the things that I feel like I'm slipping and dipping in. A lot of times it's because I'm hoping that something that you hear will spark something for you to think. Like if I say, hey, I'm dealing with stress and I do these 5 things, your 5 may not be my 5 and my 5 might not be your 5. However, it could inspire you to think of 5 more other things that you could do that fit your life so that you can apply it. That is how I like to address things when it comes to my walk, my life, my lifestyle. I can be the master of me. I am not trying to be the master of anybody but myself, and I'm still trying to master me. So with that being said, I always try to stress that. I think this is uberly important. Yes, I can be a mental health advocate. That means I speak up for those who are dealing with mental health and all the things that surround that. I have gone to Congress. I have gone and talked to our governor. I have done all of these things and will continue to do these things. However, it doesn't negate the fact that none of this means that I am a licensed anything. I'm not licensed to do anything but work out my own personal soul salvation. So if you ever hear me talk about the things that I am going through, trust me, it is not to be meant as cement. It is supposed to enlighten you that if you need to talk to someone, I'm always going to encourage you to do just that. You may need to see a therapist. I see a therapist. My therapist is the bomb.com. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about my therapy journey with my therapist because I feel like we need to have conversations around that. And I've been having these conversations. This is nothing new. But Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, I'm just going to say Mrs. Cheyenne Bryant because she does have an honorary degree, which does not mean she is a practicing doctor in any capacity. And at this point, somebody said, so basically she has the same doctoral degree as Dr. Dre, Doc McStuffins, and Dr. Pepper. And right now, I can't unsee that. Because if you've been following the drama that has been happening is that when asked about her degree, she said, I have so many degrees. And so when they said, hey, well, what you degreed in? What you licensed in? She's like, the school I went to closed down. Okay, well, there's databases that still have this information. And she's like, well, now I don't have to bleep, 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 cussing, fussing, and carrying on. Here's the problem. I make sense. You make sense. The conversation surrounding the irresponsibility of her saying that she has so many degrees but yet can't prove one is the problem, is that the people who continue, she has 4 million followers. Here is the reason why she continues to not only lie but also move in arrogance is because the people that support her, the money that she's making, the clout that she's getting, the going on the stage is talking about the same things because everybody's asking the same questions and she's giving the same arrogant answer. The reason why she gets to move in the way that she's moving is because, one, no one's really checking her and saying, hey, these things are fraud. Let's get some form of government body to come in here and do whatever. There's nothing like that can happen. That's number one. Number two, the 4 million followers and more outside of that continue to put the air up her behind, that keeps putting the fire to the flame, is going to fuel her to become more and more arrogant. Because the few times that I've seen her online, I'm not following her, but the few times that I've seen her online, she talks so well poised and she's so this and that, because that was the sell. I gotta look like I have it all together. I'm having all these quote unquote clients. And I even heard her say, well, I've had these very open therapy sessions. Therapy usually is not as open as that. So therefore, that's how another reason why you know she's gone left. Just because you can hold a good conversation, and just because you have the gift of gab, just because you are a wordsmith, doesn't mean that you are qualified to lead an ant. And I need us to be very clear on that, because too many people want to perpetrate the fraud. Now, here is the thing. Her game is going to continue as long as the 4 million people and all the people if her book becomes the #1 bestseller, it literally gives her the fuel that she continues to need. And if you think that she's arrogant now, she's going to get more and more arrogant as we go along. She's going to become more and more vulgar as this goes along, because now she's getting irritated. She knows she's going to get asked the same questions, but now she's going to get irritated because in her mind, she told y'all already, I do this, and da-da-da. None of that matters. None of that is important. None of that is substantial. None of it means that you're qualified. And here is the thing. Like, I personally have my degree. Now, now that this has come up, I actually need to see if I actually have my actual physical degree. And the reason why I say actual and factual is because we had a flood in our home a few years ago, and I'm not 100% sure that degree, which was locked in a little thing, was a part of it. But I can guarantee you, if I go to look for it in the next couple of weeks or months and I don't find it, I'm going to go ahead and reorder it. I'm going to reorder it. I'm going to put my husband's on the wall and mine's on the wall. Why? Because we both earned it. We both went to Penn State University. I'm not about to sit up in here and play no games, because now I feel like I need to get like a pocket-sized version of my degree. Now, Funky Dineva, if you've heard or ever knew anything about Funky Dineva, he read her from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. Everything he said, I have to agree, because nobody who has their degree won't have some type of showcasing of it. I literally have pictures from my actual college graduation to this day. I still got pictures of me in the cap and gown. You know, there's just other ways to verify. I have people who have graduated with me, all of the things. So I find it disheartening when I'm hearing her say this. But again, she's going to become more and more arrogant, because she's been able to get around being credentialed to the point where she's basically believing her own supply. She done convinced herself that she is a doctor. And when somebody says she was Dr. Dre, Dr. McStuffins, Doc McStuffins, and Dr. Pepper, I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. However, everybody has their day. There will come a point in time when this will fizzle out. And my prayer is that in that time when this fizzles out, that we won't just allow this to continue. If you are calling yourself Dr. anything, you better not be out here acting like you're Dr. Spock. You better have your credentials, because credentialing matters. Which brings me to the next conversation. Therapists matter. And although she has definitely said that she is not a quote unquote licensed therapist, and her wiggle around that is because she don't want to take insurance. Ma'am. So what you're saying is, I'd rather be a cash therapist, non-therapist, but I don't want to have to do all because I don't want to go through regulation. Because if she continues or ever says that she is a licensed therapist, then that's when government bodies can come in, and that's when that's when the consequences can become. She's very smart. That is definitely that. She is definitely smart. She knows just the line to go. And that's the thing, when they are trying to manipulate, when they're gaslighting, they know exactly what to say just to get to that point before they take you over. So if you are part of the 4 million, if you look on your social medias right now and you are following her, you are helping her. And here, I don't want to hear I'm only following her so that I can follow her story, because you can legitimately follow her story without following her. I legitimately had to go on her socials to find her, to hear from her mouth what she said, so I can know what was going on. And I didn't have to follow her to get that information. The one beautiful thing about social media is it's a trending topic. So if you just hold your mule, she'll come on through your timeline. Don't worry about it. You don't got to directly follow her. You don't got to be a part of the 4 million. You don't got to pad her pocketbook. You don't got to do any of that. The more and more you give a spotlight, the more and more you high five and highlight this mess, the more and more it's going to continue until it can't continue no more. Okay? But to therapists that I have had, I've had some pretty amazing ones. I don't think I've ever had a bad one. I've had rocky times in the midst of therapy, but never a bad therapist, I should say. My first one I had by myself. This was during my postpartum depression. Again, I think I've told the story number one time, is that I was in the midst of postpartum depression with my son. And if I went through it with my oldest, I'm just not aware of it because I was dealing with her being sick. It just was a fuzzy time. But with my son, I went through postpartum depression, didn't know what it was, discovered it after the fact, after everything went to hell in a handbasket. Because I was almost like postpartum psychosis. And once I discovered what that was, I saw the psychotherapist, then I saw the therapist, and then that's what we worked on. We worked on, how to define what I need and how to communicate what I need and all those things. That's exactly how the blog, for those who are not aware, I'm a blogger as well, but that's exactly how Toy Time started, because it was supposed to be me finding my time to work out my own thing and to find my own voice and to do something that was for me, that had nothing to do with the titles that I carry. That's why I talk about that at the very end of every episode, because too many times, especially when you are a parent, you give and give and give to your children, you give to your spouses, you give to the world, but you don't pour back into your cup. And so that was what my therapist said. She said, you've been talking about writing this blog and you've been talking about being a writer, but the only way to be a writer is that you have to write. And I gave every excuse in the book. Nothing that I said was invalid. I had small children at the time. Later on down the line, about a year or so later, or about a year and a half, so I ended up getting pregnant with my youngest. So I had young children. I'm pregnant. I'm going through all these different changes. At the time we were planning a wedding. There was a lot going on. So I had every valid excuse about what my life was like, what I was dealing with. These are real things. These weren't stuff that I was just using as a scapegoat. It was the truth of where I was. But she was very clear on making sure that I took the time for myself. So that was my first therapist. My second therapist was my husband and I. So at this point we get married. Now we have a couples counselor or couples therapist, because we were struggling. Here's my part in where we were struggling. I can't talk about my husband's part, although we've been on this. He's talked about our situations on this podcast. So if you want to listen to that, go to Store Love, STORRLOVE, Store Love, and you can listen to the whole story. But when we went as a couple, my issue was that I had this thought process of what marriage would look like. And I'm not the only person, not the only woman who has ever done that. For me, I thought, one, my husband and I had known each other since 1999. We met each other in August of 1999, practically the first days of moving into Penn State University. So that's where we met. That's where we graduated from. We got papers. That's where we met. And that's where we fell in love, right? And throughout the years, regardless of the times, I think we dated exclusively for almost 3 years. And then we went our separate way the senior year. Then we kind of really we never lost touch. We've been very much in communication off and on throughout this entire region. That's why it was so easy for us to pick up where we left off. But I didn't pick up where I left off. I did some work on myself and did some things, and I dated and traveled and did all these different things, and so we came back. And so I'm thinking to myself, we've known each other forever and a day. I know this man better than I know any man in my life. I mean, I'm a long-term dater. At the time I was a long-time dater, so being married just seems like the natural step. And I just assumed, we have 2 children, we should be good. Like, we're getting married. We know each other. We've known our families. We know the family dynamics. We know the triggers. We know the things that we should say, the things that we shouldn't. I knew his mom very well. And it was just, everything was everything. But the reality of it is that, of course, even though we lived together, hear me out. We lived together. We had 2 children at the time, and the third one down the line was coming, right? So we had been together and had put some time in. This wasn't no overnight flight, right? And I'm in my mind thinking, well, since we know each other for so long, and by then it was over 10 plus years, there's no way that getting married would change that. This is what I told myself. Didn't say that marriage was nothing or was just a piece of paper. I was very serious about what marriage was supposed to look like in my mind. But the struggle of what it was supposed to look like for us, given our personal situations that we were in and the things that we were going through and was on our plate, I did not have the mindset withal to see that through. And I'm leaving from postpartum depression therapy to now coming to relationship therapy. And relationship therapy is a whole nother ballgame because you have to find somebody that both people are comfortable with. Now, I was very comfortable with my therapist. Very much comfortable with her. She was an older white woman. My first therapist was, I think, younger than me. I think she was like Asian or something. Didn't have any problems with her. The second one was an older white one. I mean, she was older white woman. I think she had been married at a point, or she might have been married still at the time. I don't remember, but she was an older white woman. She knew what she was talking about. She came in with insight, never had any issues. It got really sticky during that therapy session because at the time I wanted to go to therapy because I knew it was the right thing to do, but my heart wasn't fully in it. And so when we started to engage into conversations throughout the therapy process, my focus was, what, I'm wrong again. Now here I am wrong. Every time I come in here, now I'm wrong. So then I began to do the whole shutdown, which then you're wasting therapy time. Because if you're not going to come in and do the work, which is hard because you got two people who have to be willing to do the work at all costs, right? Let's switch to after that. So now we've been married for a while. We got past this first therapist as a couple. Now I'm going back into having some personal therapy because I had a tumultuous situation happen with my dad's side of the family, which is my stepfather's side of the family. I'm not going to hash into that. I've talked about this a number of times. And in the midst of that, while I was going to therapy to basically tell the therapist about how they had hurt me and some things that they had said from my childhood, that came up when they mentioned this situation then, because when things happen, it's never about what's said. It's about what it feels like. It's about where it takes you to. And so that's what I was dealing with. But the reality was while I was going there to tell my therapist about what they had said and what they had done, then I found myself in therapy. In the midst of that, we have been married for a while. I now have 3 kids. So now we have these 3 children. And at some point throughout this situation, while I'm dealing with this new therapist, my mother-in-law began to get sick. And so now she's in the hospital or she's in rehab and different things like that. My husband went from being 100% husband, 100% father to always 100%, but 20% in energy, 20% in showing up because he needed to be full energy for his mother. And I, as a wife, I never really wanted to interfere with that because I knew that if God forbid something happened, and unfortunately something did happen, she is no longer with us. And this would be 10 years now. If something were to happen, because again, it was always the prayer that she would just get better because she had been in the hospital. She would get sick. She'd get home. She'd be fine. So the goal for me was always that she was going to get better. But God forbid, if something should happen, I would never want my husband to live with regrets that I was the one who intervened in his relationship with his mom. So I took my hands all the way off of it and put both sets. I had to put some imaginary hands in to become the sole emotional carrier for my children and myself. In the midst of that, I decided that I was going to go to therapy for me while I was trying to navigate what this new life was looking like. With him being at the hospitals and at the rehab centers till late hours at night, him having to take a leave of absence or try to work around his schedule. There was times he would go to work. He would go straight from work, go into the rehab or go into the hospital. I wouldn't see him till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, where he would get maybe 2 hours, get right back up and go right back out the door. This was our life for a long time. And I was in therapy and we were going through things, and what I mean by we were going through things, I'm talking about my therapist and I believe this was she was a middle-aged white woman and never had any issues with her. And there were things that we talked about that I probably would have enacted. And I'm just going to be very honest. No therapist is ever going to tell you to divorce your spouse, right? No therapist, but they will tell you to basically count up the costs. If nothing changes, how would you deal with this? And let me be very clear, because there could be family members on either side listen to this. This had nothing to do with his mother. This had everything to do with us as a couple, things that were happening prior to her getting sick, things that were on display and things that were kind of pushed to the side because there was no time to really deal with it or pick it back up. And I felt at the time that I was in a fight by myself. And in a lot of ways I was. And so I dealt with that therapist for that. Let's fast forward to maybe 2 years ago. I then have a different Another white woman therapist, never had any problems with her, don't have any issues with any of that. For me, it's not important, necessarily to have a white versus a black, but I will get into how I came to the therapist I have right now. The therapist that I had 2 years ago, my husband and I was going through something again. I felt like I needed to get myself together, but it was more important because I was looking for not to get myself together to be a wife. I was looking to get myself together because I needed to finally close some chapters in my heart that needed to be closed. And I needed to get back to whatever it is about me, like whatever I needed to put into my cup, and I needed to see Toy again. Like, what does Toy look like? You're raising these kids, you're doing a great job. You're running this business, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job of trying to be a wife. Now, who you are as a woman, and so that's where my therapist was 2 years ago. Let's fast forward to now a year ago. A year ago, I ended up I ended up having now a male black therapist, my first male therapist. I had a male psychotherapist, but that's the person you talk to, like talking to you about medication. This is different, right? And this therapist, a black male, he's about a couple years older than me. And I mean, like maybe 4 years older than me. We're about the same age, right? And it was a little bit of a challenge because one, he understood cultural conversations. If I would say something, he understood it because we're both of the same culture. So I never realized how important it was for me to have someone in the culture that understood. Like when I would say, I'm just tired, I don't mean that I want to go to sleep. I mean, I'm sick of everything that's going on. And I don't have to then explain, well, are you sleepy? To a therapist that might think that I'm interpreting this and this and that. I don't have to do that because my black male therapist understood that. I say all that to say that this journey of therapy has taught me that you will need certain things at certain times. I haven't had a therapist that I've been underneath the care of for 10 years straight. It is when I am at the most triggered, when I feel like I need extra help and I need extra support. And people think that you need extra support, like if you're going through a divorce, which I believe you do, or if someone has passed away, or you've lost something like a job or things like that. It could be simple. You may need somebody to step in to just help you to become more confident. Like people make it seem as if you have to have the worst of the guttermost happen in life before you can like all of a sudden request assistance. That's not true. And I want to dispel that because again, that's not true. The things that have triggered me to needing that is because I've been in therapy off and on for a long time. I have skill sets that can help me to cope through certain things. But when I feel like I need extra support, then that's when I call on my therapist. And therapy for me can last a few weeks. It's never been a few weeks. I would say a few months or longer, as long as a year. Then so be it. My husband and I'm with my therapist that I have right now. So that therapy is my personal therapist. However, in these last 3 or 4 meetings, therapy sessions, I've asked to have my husband come in. And the light bulbs that have been going off for both of us is able to see our relationship. Because remember, I wasn't willing to do the work as much as I thought I was. Like in my mind, I would say it out loud, like, I'm here, I'm doing the work. I wasn't doing the work that first time we had that first couple therapy. And I don't know if I mentioned this last episode, but I saw that same woman, our first marriage counselor, when I was running the Broad Street Run. Her business is right off of Broad Street, which was crazy because every time I drive past there, I remember exactly where she is and all the things. Like I can see her house and her office. It was like, I can see it all, right? And when I ran past her, I didn't really think about it until I saw her face to face. And then I was like, I'm first of all glad to see that she's still here. She's still doing all the things. She's still moving and grooving. It was beautiful to see. But then it also let me know where my husband and I had come from, how far we had came. So now that I'm bringing my husband into these new sessions, it's allowing me to see my husband and hear what his desires are, the things that he needs or the things he can't communicate to me, and then having another man between us as far as, rightfully dividing truth, meaning He can call me out on my stuff. He can call Marcus out on his stuff, because men will receive from another man. Like, it's one thing for me to say, I'm tired of you saying no. It's one thing for me to cry, complain, and go through all those things. But when another man calls you out to the rug, you can't really wiggle and move in that. And it's been refreshing, not because finally somebody's getting him. No, I don't care about that. But because we're both being attentive, because I'm not about to waste my co-payments on no therapy and it ain't working. I'm not going to do it. Right? I am saying all this is because while we're having these conversations about what therapy looks like, I need people to understand that you can go to therapy for a plethora of reasons. That's number one. Number two, I need you to understand that being licensed truly matters. Number three, you need to know what you're going into therapy for, or at least have an idea. And then you need to understand that your therapy may change. Your therapist may change. What you need at the moment is going to change, because that's just how life deals with us. That's just how we roll. As human beings, we may need extra support. I think if we start calling, with therapy, I'm here for calling it therapy, but if we really just put it to the point of needing extra support, then I feel like other people would be more willing to talk to someone. Look about the panoramic. I'm going to call it the panoramic until Jesus come back. I know it's been the pandemic, but I call it the panoramic. Look at how long we've been in the panoramic. Everybody raising their hands up because now they were in a situation where they didn't have support. Some people were living on their own. They couldn't go out. They had nobody to talk to, or they would have to call people on the phone or be on a Zoom, and that wasn't enough. In the midst of this panoramic, I kept saying to myself, like, I feel like I'm okay because I have my husband and I have my kids and we're all together. We're healthy and happy. But then both my grandparents, my stepfather's parents, my father's parents, they ended up being intubated, and that shook me, because I think my aunt, she was in the hospital. She wasn't as bad, but my grandparents, and they were older at that point, and they were incapacitated, and it was like touch and go. Then I started to think about the fact that my parents were so 2 hours away is not that bad. I can do that. I can drive from Philly to Lancaster as if it was like going down the street, because it's just so natural for me to drive there, and it's not that big of a deal to me. But I was thinking about, what if I can't get back there? What if I can't take that drive? Like, everybody started to feel the sting, and then everybody's raising their hand. Yeah, I'm going through anxiety. Yeah, I'm depressed too. It was okay to then talk about, because when I was first talking about different levels of mental health and anxiety, there were definitely people who agreed, but there were a lot of people who was like, I don't know why she's sharing that. I would never tell anybody that, because it was so taboo. Now conversations are popping up all over the internet. Conversations are happening all over podcasts. Conversations are happening all over the place, and it's comfortable to say that, right? We need more people who are licensed, people who can help you, who actually have the skill sets. The things that I've seen throughout my sessions, given the points of life that I have been in, have been an up and down situation. There have been times when I've gone in, felt like, okay, I'm going to get this extra support, and it's not a big deal. There's been times when I'm like, Lord, if I don't get this extra support, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I'm not talking about live life. I'm not talking about I never felt like the need to take or in my life. But what I'm saying to you is that those are the times when you have to figure out, why are you in therapy and what do you need? There is a therapist for everything. There is a therapy for everything you may need. You need to be very clear or have an idea about what it is. And then if you have an idea and you get into therapy, let your therapist lead you, or you help guide them together as a team, so that you get the best out of it. With my husband joining in, and I say to this all the time, I tell myself that all the time, it's one thing for, like, when we were doing couples therapy, whatever the co-payment was, whatever the amount was, he would pay it and then go about our way. So it didn't cost me anything. But when it costs you something, like my mother would say, y'all like spending my money until it's your money. And when it's your money and you got it cost you something, you'll look at it differently. See now it's costing me, because I'm paying the co-payments on the insurance, right? So it's costing me something. And then you need to go into a therapy with that mind. Like, don't go into these therapy sessions where it's in person or online or on the phone or whatever you may do. Don't go into it and not have your ducks in a row. Don't go into it without coming in willing to hear. And sometimes when you go to therapy, you might listen. On therapy session days, I don't even book anything. I don't do it like early, like at 6 or 7, so then I can then go out to an event. I don't do none of that. When therapy is over, you can find a toy in the bed, because I'd be so emotional. I'm like so emotionally drained from pouring out my heart, from telling all the things, for identifying the things that I'm struggling with. It takes so much out of me sometimes. Sometimes I'm out of therapy. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm hurt. I'm wounded. And I got to pick myself up, use the skills that they just gave me in these sessions so I can be a better version of myself. So all this conversation that we're having with Cheyenne Bryant, because I can't do it. I can't call her doctor if she ain't no real doctor. And I know she has an honorary doctor, so technically she could use the title. I get all that. But at the end of the day, the arrogance for me. But again, you 4 million people that's following her, y'all the reason, y'all the ones I need to talk to. Y'all are the ones, not her, y'all. Because at this point, she done showed you who she is. Y'all are just choosing to believe her. This other part of this conversation that has been happening this week is people talking about therapy or therapists. I don't know why I keep saying therapy, but therapists who have social media platforms who are always quote unquote making content. First of all, everything is content, literally. And when I say that, I don't mean everything that you should do should be content. I'm just saying there's nothing that you can't make content. You can make content in different fields. I talk about mental health and wellness on content as content all the time. I talk about lifestyle topics that are just basically content all the time. However, how you phrase the content matters, right? And there are therapists who, for instance, there are therapists who are already content creators. And so it's nothing for them to go on and make a skit about something or talk about certain things. Like, for instance, I've made a skit about the first time you're going into therapy and you're not really sure what to expect. And so you're sitting in there and you're looking all around. You're probably half nervous. You're probably not sure what is going on. And so you're trying to figure it out. You're in a new space. It's like you go into a new house. You're in a new space. And with that being said, you may struggle with how to deal with all the things. There's another therapist. He is a content creator first, and then he got his license to become a therapist, and that's Kier Gaines. I met him at the White House about 3 years ago. Whatever the last time that Joe Biden was in the office, that Christmas, I went up and got invited from Pinterest to go to the White House. One of the best experiences of my actual life. Let me just tell you something right now. I don't care what that White House looks like right now, because I can't vouch for it. What I can say is with my own 2 eyes, me being able to step my baby toe into that White House was absolutely everything to me. It was a combination of, like, one, not everybody can get invited to the White House. Number two, the experience was absolutely magical. It was a lot, like going through all the security measures and all that stuff, but it was magical. And I literally felt like, Lord, I just want to thank God. Like, it just was a beautiful experience. And he was there. Now, he is a content creator, again, that he is now a licensed therapist, and he has always made content. A lot of his content is just a beautiful thing to see. Men who have good emotional intelligence, right? And the way that he speaks, but he's very real, because he'll tell you, like, listen, my wife and I, we argue. I got to deal with these kids. I got to deal with the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of all those things. He's a human being. Therapists making content is not the issue. Therapists making content in the context of divulging information on their clients, or as this fake Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, all these things matter. How you present matters. So can a therapist be a content creator? Yes, as long as they're holding on to their ethics, which is the whole reason of being licensed. There's an ethic code that must be followed. And as long as they're helping other people, like he says, he'll tell you, he was on the Breakfast Club today. That's the reason why I'm bringing it up, because I'm going to get his new book when it comes out. Because there's very few people, like, like his life coincides with what he's putting out. He says, I'm a licensed therapist, and he does have this stuff. He has everything in line. He was already making content. So for him to go in and make content for the things that he's already doing, again, it's not a step out of bounds. It's not a step out. But you can only find that when you're looking for genuine people. Like, anybody I'm not even going to go back down that line. But yes, a therapist can make content. They can be a content creator, because we need people in that field. There are people who may see themselves in a skit, and it'll make them call their therapist so they can get some help. There may be people who are seeing themselves in a skit, and they may say to themselves, oh, I thought I was the only person going through that. I'm so happy that I can find out that I'm not alone. Because 90% of the things that we go through, we tell ourselves that we are struggling because God let everything in the world happen to only us. And so we're on this island of just me, why me? And reality of it is there's so many people with their own islands popping up all around you. If you would tell your story more, that way you would know you're not by yourself. Really, when you talk about the storytelling on social media, it's people who can relate to you, bringing people into your story. That is how people relate. So there's nothing wrong with a therapist being a content creator. We just need you to have your ducks in a row. Your ducks, your birds, your geese, everything. Get everything in a row so that when somebody asks you, you can produce the documents that make the most sense. Because, you went to school for all that time. Don't let it go to waste. If you went to school, all right? Now, can we end this podcast? We talked about therapy. We talked about therapists. We talked about the fakes. We talked about the ain'ts. We talked about the what to look for. We talked about the things and the ebbs and flows of therapy. But can I talk about not giving up? And let me tell you this. I'm not going to say, I don't know who this is for. I don't know who this is for. I do know who this is for. This is going to be for somebody who is looking at everybody else, look like they're achieving all the things, and then they're just going along and going along and going along in hopes and prayers that something is going to pop. Here is my advice. This is from me. This is my personal struggle. Let me say that right now. This is something that I have working through, and I just want to share. Last year, I made this huge declaration. I was so fed up and still struggling with the fed up. I was so fed up with the state of PRs, public relations, because they are the people which call on us as a content creator, influencer, or the things to do the things that we do. Opportunities come from companies who then use a PR company to then go out, sort, find, and bring the best cost possible people to the table, right? And in the midst of that, there are sometimes payments, there's bartering, there's all kind of things that happen with that, or experiences, whatever the case may be. And last year, I got to the point where I was legitimately fed up with the fact that I felt like for the last few years, I was putting out all the things when it comes to content. But here's the problem with that. I have been telling everybody that you have to remember your why, and I had to remind myself of that because I can go out to a restaurant, eat a good meal, do all the things. I can go out to an amazing event that's happening in Philly. I can do these family-oriented things. There's a lot of things that can be done. But I had to ask myself, one, let's take a break from just going to everything, showing up to everything, and always getting the invite, because sometimes being on the in crowd doesn't help your content. And here's the reason why I want to stress that. A lot of people want to get in the door. They just want to be in the know. They just want to be on the floor. They don't want to have FOMO. But the reality of it is, if it doesn't fit, you should not be there. If it doesn't fit, you need to pull back. If it doesn't fit, if it's not helping you, if it's not helping you build a portfolio, if it's not feeding your family, if it's not putting food on the table, if it's not doing any of those things, we got to stop just putting ourselves out, wrecking our resources, using up our gas. I looked at my car. My car has over 100 and something thousand miles on it because I'm always ripping, running, and tearing. And I thought to myself, how am I helping my resource if my car doesn't work because I'm always leaving and going somewhere and I'm not putting that energy back into myself? So last year, I believe a little bit, maybe a year and a half ago, I made this declaration. I'm not going to all these events, right? And at the time I was strong, adamant, and I very much still believe it. Let me just be very clear about that. And so when I put that declaration out there, I 100% believe that some of the PR saw it, got offended, and decided, we'll just take you from the A list to the D list. One in particular, we were friends, and he got upset because him and I had a falling out over some longevity in paying me or for something. He wasn't, not that he wasn't going to pay me, just took a little while to do so. I was very irritated. So I went and called my resources. People think that because they have an account to something, I respect your hustle 100%, but you can't you can't make my money funny. And at the time, I was dealing with not just him, but several companies at the time that were making my money funny. And I just got to the point where the burnout was real, the doing for everybody and the we friends. No, we're not friends in business. I don't need to be nice to you in business. I don't need to do any of that. I need to be a businesswoman and run my business, because it's funny. Women are expected to be nice while men can basically do whatever they need to do to run their business and people would respect it. So now I'm running my business. I'm not being nice. I'm not coddling you. I'm not hooking you up because we good and friends. And if that means that I go from being your number one call to now being your last call, then so be it. And I have been taking that hit. I have taken that hit. I have taken that hit with multiple PRs, multiple ones. Okay. I've had a situation where I went to an event. I got an invitation, confirmed the invitation, got to the event, and they said, "Oh, you're on the do not have list," to my face. Now, the PR that happened, this happened to, they heard what was happening and then was like, "It's okay," like kind of like let it go. Here's the other backstory to that. I was legitimately had pulled a muscle in my back. And because I knew that I had given my word to be at this event, regardless of how inflamed and in pain I was, I showed up only to find out that in reality, they had chosen their lists. They had chosen who they wanted there. So they had sent out these early invites. I literally was like a D list. And then on top of that, because they had my list on the not list for the first time, I was on their A list. Because I was on a D list, when they came to the event, they were focused on their A list, not anything else. And that's when I found out to my face, there was no wiggle room. And even if I have a conversation with that PR person, I would say this very clearly. You can't mistake calling me into my face and telling me that I'm basically on the D list or the not list to my face. And just because you were in earshot, because that's what it was, the person was in earshot. And because they heard what happened, they kind of then was, "It's okay, let her in." Now, what I should have done was call my husband to come back around the corner to pick my behind up and left. And that would have been the end of that, right? That should have just been the end of it. But I had to ask myself, do I really want to take this walk of shame and have all this happen? But at the time I was like, I'm in too much pain. I don't want to have this on top of that. But I should have listened to my first mind, should have listened to my first thought and got the hell up out of Dodge. Because the first time somebody tells you they don't want you to something, or your husband tells you, or your wife tells you they don't want you, you got to listen to them the first time. Don't let nobody tell you twice. And since then, I haven't attended any event that this person has held. Nothing. And I'm okay with that. I say all that to say is, I said to God, I didn't start my content to be the number one person. I didn't start this content to be the one in the glory in their lives. There's some content creators right now that are it. They are the it girl. They are the it guy. And I love that for you. But I pray that you understand that your it right now could turn around and not be the it tomorrow. And I'm not wishing that on anybody. I'm praying that your it always lasts. But let's be realistic. When you don't dance the way they want you to dance, your time will dim a little if you're not careful. Here's my point in all of this. You got to continue on your why. You got to continue to steadfast, because the people that are supposed to be around you, the things that you're supposed to have, no it girl, no it guy, no it anything is going to stop me from doing the things that needs to be done. And not only that, I kept staying the course, doing the content that resonates with me, doing it the way that I want to, focusing on those things and focusing on the reason why. And let me just explain to you, in the last 24 hours, I am sealing the deal on some amazing campaigns that I went in and asked to create. I didn't ask, "Hey, can I be a part of the campaign that I saw you do with so-and-so?" I said, "This is what I want to create. How can we make that happen?" And they came back and said, "Let's make it happen." And if I was stuck on, but no one's asking me to come, or they're not asking me to go out as much, I don't have time to go out as much, because now I'm creating the lane. I'm not in the lane. I'm creating my own lane, because that was the focus from the jump. That was the goal from the jump. It was never supposed to be to copy and paste. It was never supposed to be copy and paste. It was always to create your own lane. It was always to make sure that you inspire. It was always to be a storyteller. It was always to do all these things. It was always to show people how amazing you can have a life and still come and deal with anxiety. It was always to show that you can have mental health issues but still shine. It was always about that, because that was where the goals were. So where's your goals? What are they? Because if you allow the things that are happening and the people that are being uplifted and you, not me, not me, not me, you're going to mess around and then you won't be anywhere. But if you create your own lane, if you start to pitch and start to put these things out into the space and you start to pray and read your Bible, at least for me, reading my Bible is what works for me. I ain't trying to push that on you. But for me, staying steadfast and clearing my head and making sure that I'm good, those are the things that are working out for me, right? I just want to encourage the person I know who needs to hear this, because there's somebody who is saying, but they're not seeing me. I'm not in the light. They're not seeing me. They're not seeing you. Create it, because your light will shine so bright that nobody will be able to deny you. Nobody. You got to do what works for you. You got to build relationships, longevity, instead of trying to get a one-off campaign. Learn to work with the relationship and build something so somebody will come back not once, not twice, but 3 times and more than that. Because if you build relationship, you'll always be able to create. If you build relationships versus building numbers, instead of trying to go viral all the time, instead of trying to do this and do that, if you would just build what you're supposed to build in the midst of all the drama and the things that are happening around you and all the things that's happening around other people that's around you, if you would stay the course and keep your focus, if you would keep your eye on the prize and stop letting the things that are, listen, we're all going to look. We all trying to not to look rich. We're going to see things. You're going to hear things. You're going to have people lie on you. You're going to have all kind of stuff happen. Listen, do you not understand? There's always a confirmation. Just this week, I had confirmation that the very people that I don't even deal with still have my name very much in the forefront of their minds. But it's a beautiful thing, because you have to have those conversations without me being there. And eventually I hear about them, because I'm not checking in on that. I'm not giving that space. I'm not giving that credence. I will do the things that make sense for me, what makes sense for my content. I'm not saying yes to everything. I said yes to everything in the beginning of my career because I felt like that was the way to build. And I'm here to tell you that is not the way to build, that you will burn out very quickly. You will get irritated very quickly because your why is being suffocated by doing too much. There is a concept of doing too much. There is. There just is. And so you need to be very clear about what you're doing. What are you doing? What are you doing? What is your game plan? You know what I started doing? Over about 6 months ago, I bought a planner that's exclusively just for content. And in that planner, I focused on the things that I need to work on, not anything else that anybody else is doing. Yes, there are invitations that will come, and if they fit, I will go. And if they don't, I don't. But what I'm telling you is, I'm saying all of that to say is because somebody is listening and they're seeing everybody's name in lights, and your name is very small in the credits where you may need a magnifying glass to see it. But let me explain something to you. If you're doing it if you allow the people to feed you by their applauses, if you allow people to feed you by the fact that they're always calling your name and you feel like you're the best thing since sliced bread, if that feeds you, it will also kill you. Because people's attention span is short. You got to have longevity in the game. You're not here to just have a viral moment. You're not here just to see your numbers go up. You are here to also motivate. You are here to be a light. You are here to encourage. You are here so that people who are in darkness can see the baby light that you feel that you're shining, but to them, it may be bright. I have had people walk up to me and said, "Hey, I so enjoy your content because it was something that I was going through. I was watching your content. Something you said resonated with me." That's what you are here for. And anything else that doesn't resonate with that, is why you will continue to struggle, because you still haven't found your way. I'm not telling you that you're not supposed to have viral moments. I'm not telling you that you're not going to make, decent money if that's what you're looking to do too. There's nothing wrong with those things. What I am telling you is that if you allow the crowd to feed you, they will also starve you. And you've got to get that in the back of your mind. There's been times where I've had FOMO when I made that declaration and then I started getting invitations. There's been a few invitations that I was like, you know what, that'd have been nice. I surely would have been on that list, but I'm not willing to compromise myself to do so. I'm surely not about to crawl back over something that I actually didn't do anything wrong in. And because people are dealing with their egos, I'm not doing any of that, because I believe that what is for me, nobody can stop me. If I'm supposed to be in the building, even if there's a PR that doesn't like me to this day, if I'm supposed to be in there will be another door. And I have seen it happen. I have seen where there's been a PR, right? Thinking about one in particular. Had a client, their client was the one doing whatever, and I got an invitation directly from the owner. And so when I showed up in the same space as everybody else, it was like, oh, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Because I don't need you to get into the door. I am the door. God is the door. He will open up the doors for me. I don't need anybody to think that they are the reason as to why I am successful. The success comes from God who gives me the gifts that I have. God is blessing me. There's nothing that I'm doing that's major. Trust me, believe me, it's just God. It's also my desire to then continue to do the right thing. And there's been times when my integrity has been, hey, you either going to show integrity or you're going to not. And I have decided to show integrity. So this is exclusively for those who need to understand that giving up cannot continue to be your option. It cannot be your fallway. It cannot be your exit plan. It cannot always be your safety measure. You have got to find a way to stay the course. And sometimes that may be reinforcing your situation. You got to have the right people in your circle. I have eliminated a lot of foolishness out of my circle. There is a lot of things I'm sure is going on in the content creation world here in the city of Philadelphia. But unless it's super duper heavy, that it's not coming on my timeline, I'm guaranteeing I'm not in it. My name is Bennett and I'm not in it. Nobody ever says, well, Latoya. There ain't no need to mention me because you know where I'm at? At home with my family. You know where I'm at? Somewhere probably traveling. You know where I'm at? Being a good basketball mom. You know where I'm at? Making sure that I'm a good theater mom. You know where I'm at? Making sure I'm being a good volleyball mom. You know where I'm at? Trying to find some time to do some self-care. You know where I'm at? I probably had a cocktail and fell asleep on the couch. You know where I'm at? I'm in my zone, minding my business, creating my content, doing my thing and going about my way. Because that's where I'm at. I'm not in there to be fooling around with nobody. I'm not in there for all that. You can't say my name and stuff because I ain't nowhere around because your name ain't stored. Your last name ain't stored in some capacity. I don't know what to tell you. But this is all I am trying to say. Stay encouraged. Don't give up. Get back. If you're a creator, you better learn how to create, and you better learn how to create outside of all these invitations. They're beautiful, they're great, they're colossal, or wow, yay. But you better learn how to create for real because you have to be a creative in order to be a creator. Got to be creative to be a creator. So you better figure it out and get creative so you can continue to walk in the creator that you want to be. Take the blinders off. Everybody ain't gonna like you. You better get real tough skin around here because I'm telling you right now, if you step into the creator space, everybody wants to break everything you do down. Everything you do is wrong and I could have did that better. And here's the crazy part. I've even had people say, I would have did a better job than her. God didn't call you. He didn't call you because he wanted a better job to be done. He called me because I'm faithful. He called me because I would answer the call without coming in there with a big head. He called me because I would do the right thing and I would be there to look for the people who needed me instead of trying to be seen. Anybody who knows me, I'm more comfortable in the background. I will do an Irish goodbye because you know why? I came to do what I need to do and I'm going about my way to go back home. That's where I want to be, where my stuff is, where the mortgage is getting paid, where the lights are still on and the air conditioner is on when it gets hot and the heat is on when it gets cold and my cocktails and my wine glasses are up in here and my books and my bookshelves are in here. That's where I'm trying to be, at home. And if I'm not at home, then I'm somewhere creating content or I'm taking a trip or somewhere that does with creating content or I'm with my family. We just relaxing, taking a vacation. I'm minding the business that actually pays me. And let me say this real quick. 90% of these events that you see people going to, they are not being paid. So if I'm minding the business that pays me, I don't care if I'm not invited to your dinner. If I'm sitting at home getting paid, creating content, I have sat in my house, literally creating content, re-editing, reshooting, and doing what I need to do because I was trying to get paid versus me sitting up at your table, getting a free meal and a cocktail. I got food in here. I can cook very well and cocktails in here. I'm minding the business that pays me. And we got to get focused. It doesn't matter what field that you are in. This applies to everything. It's not just content creation. Some of us are doing too caught up in our jobs. We're learning about what so-and-so is doing in the economics department and the accounting department and the mailing department. And you need to be focused on what you're supposed to be doing because you're there to work. You're there to do a purpose. You're there to lead. There's somebody there that may need you, but you got to make the difference. You can't sit and be common and having all these conversations and having all this drama pop off. Listen, when drama pops off, my name is no longer attached. Now, if you would see me in my 20s, I got family members that if I called them up right now, put them on this podcast, they would be like, yeah, she was a hot mess at Express. Yep. She would be ready to fight over, drop a dime. She would cuss you clean out. Yes. Now, all them things still exist. Okay. Don't get this twisted. Therapy did not make me soft. It made me aware. It made me be aware of the cost is going to count to be away from my kids and be up in a jumpsuit. It also made me aware that everybody ain't worth it. So therefore, I stay in my lane. But if I was in my 20s, pop off, I'd be like popcorn. Okay, I know what I'm talking about. But at 45, I am enjoying a good glass of wine. I am enjoying some sleep. I am enjoying my husband. Me and my kids are laughing about something. We in here doing our 6, 7, or I'm doing something to bother them. They're doing something to bother me, and we're laughing about it. We're at the hairdresser getting our hair done. We staying fine around here. We're making sure everybody is good, making sure everybody's grades is good. I am not involved in nobody's mess, and I love it. I love that. Because when you stay in your lane, you don't got time to pick up all these extra things. So stay the course. Be encouraged. Do the right thing. Create if you're a creator. If you're a worker. If you're in your field and you're a doctor, do the right thing. Stay prayed up. You may never know who you're going to see. Hey, there's a lot of things that you can apply these lessons to. And I pray that that's exactly what you do. With that being said, that is our podcast. We talked about Miss Cheyenne Bryant. She wants to be called Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, who doesn't have her degrees and or doesn't want to verify them, or they can't be verified. That's between her and Jesus. But as far as here on earth, in most cases, when you are saying that you are anything, whether you're calling yourself a therapist, a life coach, people want to know what makes you the authority in what you're speaking. And if you're only speaking about yourself, then yes, you are authority of yourself. And when you start to tell people what they need to be doing, you need to be authority that has some backing to it. Accountability doesn't mean that somebody is hating. And the other part of this whole journey is you got to figure out, if you are going to a therapist, what is your purpose in your therapy, or at least come in with the idea and find out what types of therapy styles work for you. Different therapists come in with their different styles. My therapist right now is straight to the cuff. As a Black man, he just doesn't pull no punches. And because I understand culturally what he's saying, it doesn't bother me, right? And that works for me, because at the point that I'm in right now, that's just kind of where I'm at. Straight shots, no chaser. However, you got to determine what works for you. What works for you is what's going to help you to become a better version of yourself. Because if you're in therapy and you're always rubbing against sand because you're never getting to the point where you're getting comfortable enough to speak very truthfully. And let me just tell you this, and then we're going to end. If you go into therapy and you lie to your therapist, you have already wasted your money. If you go in there and you can't be honest, I'm talking about telling on yourself for real. If you cannot be honest with your therapist, you have already wasted your money. Okay. With that being said, it is now time to focus on the weekend as we get to the point of, we are in the middle of May. So we're almost to that mark of getting to June. And June is when you hit that 6-month period, and you really got to start asking yourself, we got 6 months left. What we going to do with ourselves? Right? So with that being said, I want you to pour back into your cup this weekend. What are you going to do that is going to put a smile on your face that doesn't always have to cost a lot of money? Because money be looking funny for a lot of people. But I want you to think about what one activity that you can do that can pour back into your cup, that can make you feel joy, that can give you all the things, because you are deserving of that. Find that one activity that has nothing to do with the titles that you carry, has nothing to do with the how smart you are, or any of those things. It's just something about what makes you happy, what makes you gleeful, and what's going to make you smile. Find that activity and do it. We will be back next week to talk about all the things, and I hope that you have a great week, and thank you for listening to Conversations with Toy.
Thank you as always for joining me. And I know that even in the deepest or joyful conversations, that there's something we can learn and apply. Until next time, I hope that you are doing better. If not, we will be back to talk some more and handle it. Peace to you and yours. Stay grounded.